Right. So the big conundrum for me on how to present this video, because I'm trying to do some testing around here and see if I should do this a new way, is that I wasn't sure how to present this as a PC build review or just a GPU review. And I think I'm going to do this as just a GPU review, because if I were to reveal or just kind of review the PC itself, I'm just showing you what it looks like and telling you how much the parts cost. So you can see it, and here shortly, if you're not already seeing it, you will see a parts cost, an itemized breakdown, and also I will be leaving links in the description. So what I like to do is I like to build PCs in general. I just like building PCs. I like building things. My goal is always to build the cheapest PC I can that can still, look decent and play decently. Now, I still have not built the cheapest PC yet, because even in this build, being the second or the most cheapest I've built, I think maybe I've done one other PC that's a little bit higher than this, but maybe only by a couple of dollars. But it didn't look as good as this one does. Even though I think it didn't look as good as this one does, and it didn't perform as well as this one did either. I have a lot more knowledge now, so that made things easier. So I think I know for a fact I could save like $8 to $10 on just going with the Silicon Power RAM. But the RAM I put in this was next day versus Silicon Power I had to wait 4 days. And wound up being kind of pointless because it made me wait for that one. The shipping updated and I got kind of screwed over. So I could have saved some money there. It would have been a $220 build. And then I could have saved some money on the case itself. The case was $56. It looks great. It comes fully RGB. If I really, really wanted to save costs there, I could have gone with like a $30 case. It looks very ugly, but it would have been functional. So I guess technically speaking, we could knock off $30 from this build just for that, and this would be a $200 PC. So I know that when people are talking budget builds, they tend to be like in the $500 range, $600 range. I wouldn't really call that budget. I know that those are 1080p rigs when you're talking at those prices, but that's still not budget 1080p. That's good quality 1080p, no restrictions type deal. Minimum some 1440p capabilities as well. This rig is specifically 1080p and 1080p low. And no, the GTX 780 does not play all modern titles. But I was a little nervous that I may have bought a turd when I got this, and then I wound up getting two because I made offers. Impatiently made two offers to two different listings around the similar price range, and they got accepted late, so I got stuck with both of them. So I was really happy to see how well it did even on Fortnite, because Fortnite is still like one of the top esport games, one of the ones I get asked about the most, followed by probably GTA 5. So if it plays Fortnite well, I know that there's a good chance it's going to play most of the esport games well, and that it should play GTA 5, because the requirements for that are like a potato. So yeah, the 780 came out in like 2013, making it like 12 years old, and they stopped updating, or they stopped making driver updates for this car specifically in 2021. So for the fact that it's this far out of date on driver updates and this old, it handles gaming pretty well. Of course, I would imagine at 4 minutes into the video, we're probably already into the benchmarks. But I think I tested Jedi Fallen Order, Hogwarts Legacy, the new Delta Force, and of course Fortnite. And yeah, and I think that's probably about it. So the only disappointing thing that I ran into was with Modern Warfare, and normally I don't even care about that game. I personally don't like it. I think it sucks. But somebody did buy a PC off me recently that specifically wanted benchmarking for that game, and so I thought I would go ahead and check this one out as well to see if it plays it. I mean, technically it falls within the range of possibility if you look at the minimum requirements, but when I went to go play the game, I downloaded it and launched the game. It was playing, but the shaders would not complete the download, so the floor was like bugged out, artifact out. It was just not, it wouldn't render the ground properly. So while you could argue that it's kind of playable, it just looks disgusting. So I won't count it as playable. Yeah. But as far as everything else, I think Jedi Fallen Order, I was playing it at 40 FPS with a mixture of epic and high settings. And most everything else, was the one game I forgot was the Batman Arkham Origins, which of course did the absolute best, but I think that's because that game is pretty old now. I think the Arkham series is pretty old. It was actually my first encounter with Batman, with a Batman game, and I thought it was actually pretty cool. Didn't play very much of it, but of course you're going to get to see a chunk of what I did play. It did pretty well there, and that was at normal settings, doing well over 100 FPS. I think on multiple occasions it touched in the 200 FPS range, and I think if I would have dropped it to low settings, it would have. But then again, the way I figure it is, when you're playing games, if they're not online, if they're not like online games that you're playing with people, you would want to maximize your quality. So play it at the best quality that your graphics card and CPU can. So yeah, even the Hogwarts Legacy was doing like 30 FPS, which is playable on medium settings, but I did drop it down to low just to see like how good it could get, and I think it kind of bounced around in the 40 to 60 range, not steady. But yeah, again, modern titles that are playable. So I guess not to drag on too long, we'll talk about this GPU or whatnot. But as much as I was surprised to see how well it did for what it was playing. And I wouldn't agree with some people's comments I was seeing saying that the car was e-waste. It's not e-waste. It plays modern titles. Now, it doesn't play every modern title. It doesn't play with high FPS and high graphical quality, fidelity, and shit like that. But it's still usable. Very usable. No stutters and whatnot. And the fact that even if it only played Fortnite alone by itself, like if you could build a $200 Fortnite rig, I mean, if that's the game you predominantly play, I don't think that's a bad idea. Plus, with this particular build that I've used, the 2650 and 16 gigabytes RAM, that combo right there is super upgradable. Like there's a dozen fucking graphics cards you can throw in this rig to make it capable of playing anything on high settings, and it'll take it just fine. I think Toasty Bros tested it all the way up to a 4060 on the 2650 version 3, and it was playing pretty fine. And I guess one of the things was too, that's all somebody, like the first clip I put out for this GPU, which I kind of put out prematurely, was for Fortnite. And I say prematurely because I like to tag all my shorts back to a mainline video. But there was a guy who was like, oh, it's just Fortnite, so it doesn't really matter, that the GPU's playing it. Well, it does. Like the GPU does matter in Fortnite, as well as CPU. Just because it leans heavy on the CPU doesn't mean you don't need a graphics card to play it. Right. As a matter of fact, the reason why I was so happy about it is because I was seeing 140, sometimes 160 FPS out of the 780 with a 2650 version 3 a Xeon, when I have a couple of rigs with Ryzen 5 4500s in them, and like an A580 and another one with RX 6600, and it's right around the same range of FPS. So even if you want to argue that the GPU doesn't really matter there and it's more CPU, well, you're still talking about like a decade-old CPU that's working on par with one that's just a couple of years old, and you can still buy brand new. So, and then again, of course, like I said, so I think the 780 isn't necessarily e-waste. If you're looking for GPUs and you can find one in the $30 range, then sure. I guess if you're in a pinch and you just want to put together something quick and you'll upgrade later. But anything like $40 and $50 is not worthwhile. At that point, I would say that's a silly thing to do. Simply because of the fact that almost any GPU, no matter what quality it cranks out, if it's capable of playing modern games, they almost are all priced around the same price range. And like the 1050 Ti, the 780, the 780 Ti, the GTX 1060, all of those are like around $40 to $60 on the majority. I was able to get mine for both my 780s for $42, and previously I've been able to buy 980s at $40 range. So I guess it's just like if you really want to grab something quick and you're not willing to wait a long time to look for a good deal, then sure, by all means grab one. But at the end of the day, I would still recommend grabbing a GTX 980. If you get a GTX 980, I've played literally every game that I could think to grab. You know, Black Myth: Wukong, it plays at high settings. It's playable at high settings and whatnot. Now, you're not going to get great FPS at high settings. You'll get 30 FPS around high settings, but it still plays it just fine without stutters. So the GTX 980 still plays modern titles on high settings if you're wanting to grab something like that. So if you want to grab something that's budget, that's not going to cause you any issues, then I would say that. Right now, the GTX 980 is anywhere between $60 to $70. It's a little bit too high for me. I don't like to pay more than $55 for those. I guess I'll pay $60 in a pinch. But that's because I flip PCs, guys. I'm buying and selling, and I have to try and keep my overhead as low as possible because generally my PCs sell between $350 to $400. So the GPU always takes a big chunk out of the overall build cost. So again, like, I would not say the 780 is waste. I would not target that specifically, but if you have one already in the stash somewhere and you're kind of curious about it without sticking in a rig, or if you know somebody who has one that's willing to let it go for cheap, or you find somebody on Marketplace, you know, then by all means you can grab it and it will work for a lot of titles. But yeah, I still wouldn't recommend it overall, even though it is very playable with for a decent amount of stuff. All right, guys, so thanks for watching, and peace.